Today, I'm going to change it up a bit and simply complain about something. I'm going to tell you why I don't use channel strip plugins. Channel strip plugins are getting released at a furious pace these days, but I've always found them kind of useless. Let's find out why. But first, please like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And sign up for my newsletter to get free samples and info on my upcoming mini course on mix separation at palebluedot.ca. Just to define things, when I'm speaking of a channel strip, this is a plugin that usually combines the main bread and butter mixing tools, like EQ, compression, and gating or expansion, into one interface, usually with an eye to emulating traditional console workflows. The advantage purportedly being that you get everything all in one spot. But is this better? The earliest example I could find of a channel strip plugin was Waves Audio Track from way back in 1997. I ignored it then, and I ignore it now. Why? Because it's a zero-sum game. You can't bypass any of the separate modules. Everything is either on or off. And it merely offers versions of Waves EQ, and only 4 bands at that, the C1 compressor and gate, all reduced in features and size. So I never felt a need to use it. I could just use the individual plugins. The same goes for Renaissance Channel, and then eventually things like the SSL Channel. I just kept ignoring them. I just didn't open them in my plugin folder, and I want to explore why that is. And this brings me to my biggest problem with channel strip plugins, what I call bypassability. What I love about modern DAWs is that you can open your mixer and insert your plugins in a chain, move those plugins around, delete them, etc. And for me, it's important to be able to bypass, say, an EQ that I have before the compressor to see if it's indeed helping or hurting the track. But all the other processing can remain in place, so I can hear how the EQ interacts with the full signal. If I'm using a channel strip on my first insert and it's using multiple effects, I can only bypass all of them in my plugin chain. So if my EQ and compression are on the SSL console, I have to bypass both during mixing. Sure, I can open up the interface and bypass a module if the strip allows it. Some don't, but it's an extra step that adds to mix decision fatigue. Also, on most mixers nowadays, you have a undo and redo function, so if I delete one of my series of inserts, I can just get it back if I made a mistake. I can actually undo the order now too, so you don't have this flexibility if everything's inside a channel strip. With individual plugins, I can quickly mix and match, bypass what I want, bypass the chain globally with only my active plugins intact, and more importantly, I can reorder them as I see fit. This encourages creativity for me, and I don't have to remember if I have EQ and compression on that channel strip plugin. I can see my effects right there. There's the EQ, there's the compressor, there's the transient designer. It's just faster for me to mix within the inserts, not inside hidden channel strips. And that reminds me of my next point. What I touched on before is this. When I have a big mix going and all I see is virtual mix rack, what does this tell me about how I process this channel? Did I use EQ? Is there compression? Did I use console saturation? When I'm deep inside a mix and making crucial decisions, I'm bound to forget what my plan was for that snare from 30 minutes ago. Now I need to open up the channel strip and carefully scan which effects I'm using. Larger chains can stretch off the screen and you have to drag it back and then scan what you have, what you're using. This is annoying and adds to the workload my tiny brain is taking on while managing all the big decisions in mixing. But when I have an individuated plugin chain, I can see that, yes, I have EQ, then compression, then chorus, then saturation. Or maybe I'll move the chorus after the saturation. Easy. And I can do this without ever opening an interface and scrolling around. I can focus on mixing instead of parsing an interface. Which leads to my next point. The beauty of digital audio is that we do not have to be restricted to the limitations of the analog or physical domain. We can see this clearly in something like the graphical parametric EQs like Pro Q we all take for granted now, but could not have accommodated into a mixing desk that had to be physically adjustable by human hands. Now, I understand that these consoles sounded amazing, but why do these interfaces have to be so awful? For example, here's the Plugin Alliance Lindell 80. I just authorized the demo, so let's see how easy it is to use. So I'm going to try to add some high end to this channel. Okay, I'm going to try to add some high end. 84. Wow, this takes some features away. What the hell? Okay. So this appears to be the high shelf. I'm going to turn it up, and that goes to the left, which is this is kind of the opposite of your usual equalizer dials. Like, if I was to open my channel strip here, it's usually centered, and you turn to the left or the right. And at the end of the day, this isn't doing anything. Let's try the mid-range. Okay, nothing happening there. I'm not sure why someone would want to work this way. Let's check out the pass filter. Okay, so I'm scrolling this up, and it's not going to the left like the other dials. Why is that? Oh, but it goes to the right. Oh, and that's working. Oh. See, now I'm supposed to know that this metal ring on the outside goes to the fixed positions. So I have only 4 choices here. So I guess that means for the low shelf... Okay, I'm trying to turn this. Oh, I turn it up and it goes down. Okay, I think I've added a very low shelf at 110. And now that means I need to set my high shelf here. Ugh, look at this. This is, this is not easy to do. There, now I've added some high end. Okay, so I had to somehow figure out that I need to click the outer ring to activate the high pass filter. Alright, so you get my point. I've been futzing around now for like a minute trying to decipher this Byzantine, unintuitive workflow. Normally I could fire up virtually any parametric EQ made in the last 20 years and just add high end. What is the point of complicating this? Plus, there is such little contrast in visual cues that a dial is active. It would be easy to miss this in a busy mix. Again, this all goes to memory fatigue, things that I have to stare at and learn and figure out while I'm mixing. No thanks. I like to use oversampling on plugins that use saturation, but another thing that bugs me about all-in-one channel solutions is that if they offer oversampling, which they should, it applies to everything in that channel strip. Now, does that make sense for plugins that are using saturation to emulate the non-linearities and noise of the originals? Of course. But more crucially, if I don't need oversampling on a gate or a compressor, then why add it? I'd rather apply oversampling to just the saturation plugin, or just the limiter that's clipping, and save processing power. Again, it's the zero-sumness of all of this that bugs me. Channel strips remove choice. They impose a chain upon you. Now, there's a lot to be said about adding limitations on the unlimited world of digital audio. But I can't say I see an advantage to forcing engineers to adhere to old, outmoded methods of mixing, or thinking that an upside-down EQ dial is going to make us mix better. Personally, I want to see and control what is right in front of me. With most of us mixing on single monitors and laptops these days, it pays to not have to open a large, cumbersome interface just to try to remember which settings or how many effects we used. In this golden age of audio processing, we have plenty of headroom to have separate processors that are easy to identify, that we can quickly scan with our eyes, and know what we did on each track. To be clear, I'm all for analog modeling, and many of these channel strips sound incredible. I use the Waves TG12345 just for the wild compression, and the Slate stuff's amazing. But I'd rather have the individual choice than inscrutable monolithic interfaces. Your mileage may vary. That's all for now. What do you think of channel strips? Am I totally off base? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and head over to palebluedot.ca and sign up for my newsletter. I'm giving away my free contact instrument and mixing cheat sheet. Plus, you can get information on my new upcoming mini course about mixing separation. Until next time, mix well.